Hey class, it's Paul here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my informative speech on how the FDA regulates our food and what they regulate, and if you should, maybe think twice before picking up something that you think is okay for you. Alright, so the topics I'm going to be talking about are supplements. I'm going to be talking about the major food ingredients like corn and soy. I'm going to be talking about the corporate companies and how they tie into the FDA, and just give you a little background on like the companies and what all processes they go through with the FDA. So starting off in 2015, Gary Stoller, off of the chit.org website, states they did an analysis on FDA data revealing 615 dietary supplements were identified as tainted since January 2008. That's 7 years, and in 7 years, 615 dietary supplements. That's not a big deal because, medicine and dietary supplements get thrown into the pool all the time. So it's not that big of a deal. But this is just an idea of how little is looked into this. Also, how much do you think the FDA actually, like, what testing goes into this? Okay, let me tell you, none. None goes into this. It's basically up to the company to be like, hey, here's some gummy vitamins, put this on the shelf. If any side effects happen, like nausea or something, I as a consumer will go to the FDA website and be like, I had an adverse effect from this, and the company will look into it. But other than that, nothing happens. There's pre-workouts, multivitamins, anything that has dietary supplement on it can be a scam for the most part. There can be nothing in there. As long as it doesn't adversely affect you or you don't do testing on it to prove anything, nothing's going to happen. The second thing topic I'm going to talk about, moving from the small portions that we as consumers, I'm going to be talking about the major things that are made up of our like 50% to 75% of our diet, like corn and soy. I'm going to be mainly talking about soy, how, GMOs, for example. GMO is a huge thing right now. So if not, you guys don't know, GMO stands for genetically modified organism. I'm just going to be saying GM for right now, genetically modified. But genetically modified corn is basically scientists take DNA that they want to put in the corn to make it more resistant to certain things or make it, grow bigger or something like that. They basically modify it. But this moved from 15% 10 years ago or 5 years ago to it's up to 90% now of our corn. 80 to 90% of our corn is genetically modified. So that's not that big of a deal if you think about it. Okay, it's not that big of a deal because we don't know what is actually in the DNA of the corn. But I know that there's toxins to basically prevent corn or worms from getting in. There's Roundup resistant that basically prevents Roundup from hurting the corn. But so that basically farmers can spray as much as they want on the corn population and it won't hurt the corn. But I mean, they don't think about us as consumers. And how do you think this gets tested? All this, I can make a plant right here. I'm going to make a plant. I'm going to, take some DNA and make this corn grow 4 feet tall. Let me submit this to the FDA. So, all I have to show them is valid information that I did testing. I could test it on 3 rats. I could test it on nothing. But say I tested it on 3 rats. I tested it on 3 rats. They're going to believe me. I'm going to give them the information and it's going to get approved. So that's how it works, really, especially with the GMO portion, because backing up that brings me to my next point. It's a big factor. It's the corporations and how they tie into the FDA. The main company is Monsanto Corporation. Evan Bonnet from IndependentVotersNews.com speaks on this. He says most high-level FDA employees have a background in either medicine or law, but one of the largest private sector sources in the company over the past decade. At least 7 high-ranking employees in the FDA have had previous employment with the Monsanto company, and it's you can Google it. Like it's insane how cross, like it's ridiculous. So basically they can get whatever they want signed off. They could, I mean, they have everyone. They're so built inside of the FDA. It's almost like they're running the FDA. So that's just some things to think about. I talked about dietary supplements. I talked about how they don't actually test any of your supplements. I talked about corn and the population of it, and of how much of it is actually real corn. 10% is real corn, and then not the rest of it is not. And then I talked about the corporations and how they tie into the FDA. And I talked about why they probably tie into the FDA. But that just leads you guys to more information on you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video and your comments on it. All right, see ya.